Riley, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so excited to have you on.
Me too, Jessica. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So tell me your name, your position, and the company you're at.
So, my name is Riley McDonnell. I'm the founder or co-founder and CEO of GlassPass. And GlassPass is a glass marketplace app for high-end glass. The easiest way to think about it is kind of like eBay mixed with Instagram, kind of like Depop, but specifically for the glass community.
That's awesome. How did you come about to creating this?
So I'm currently 24. When I was in college, about I think sophomore year, about 4 years ago now, in 2017, me and a couple friends had the idea to essentially start what GlassPass is, which is essentially just a safe marketplace to be able to buy, sell, auction, discuss, learn pretty much everything you can think of about the glass community. The reason why I kind of started it was but in college we started getting into nice glass and started being interested in building our own collections and stuff like that. But the hardest thing about securing nice pieces is one, finding where they are, because head shops, they most of them don't have all their inventory online because it can kind of be hard to stock it. Obviously there's not really like a good way to search for specific pieces and in colors and artists. It's kind of just all spread across the internet. So if you wanted to buy something new, it was kind of hard to find what you're looking for. And then if you wanted to buy something used, like on social media, which is what I used to do, there were really no platforms to do that. It was pretty much all just separated, decentralized Facebook groups or individual people on Instagram, kind of just like selling items here and there. But one of the biggest problems beside being able to find something was just the risk of getting scammed. Obviously, since it's glass, if you get scammed and you tried to like, go to the police or something, they're probably just going to say, like, we can't really help you there. Good luck. And so that was a huge problem. It still happens all the time today. And we just thought that, this is a growing community. There's people that are like genuinely interested in collecting these pieces. Some people will like buy and sell up to like 10 pieces a month. So the people that do collect these items are really, really passionate about it. And it just kind of seemed crazy to me that there was no like platform to do any of this safely. It was all just out there. And the craziest part is Facebook, is trying to get rid of cannabis content, and they have like AI that recognizes if you post a piece of glass, they'll immediately take it down. And so the communities that previously kind of like, or the platforms that previously hosted these communities have been slowly, pushing people away. And I kind of see the high end glass market as similar to like sneakers. There are drops that people will literally sleep out for hours. They'll camp outside of a smoke shop just to get like the latest piece, and sometimes they'll try and sell it later for more money. And so just like the whole collection aspect, the really strong community, the events, just the passion and like the knowledge and really like the interest that people have in specific artists and like their stories was just really, really cool. I had never experienced a community that had so much passion to something that is so like so niche and kind of so underground. And I just really we started GlassPass to try and build a legitimate platform and to try and bring this like kind of like counterculture, like hidden area of cannabis more into the mainstream. So I mean, one day I really think that like expensive glass could be like a centerpiece on your shelf in your house, and it's kind of like a nice wine decanter or like nice wine glasses. You have a beautiful piece of glass that people come over and just like talk about, look at. There's already a lot of celebrities that like collect like high-end glass. Well, not a lot, but like a few. And so it's definitely kind of getting more into the mainstream, which is really, really exciting to see like these high-end pieces kind of not just be for people that are really, smoke a lot, but people that are kind of also interested in just art and culture as well. So that's kind of the big backstory behind GlassPass.
Yeah, I love that you said bringing the counterculture to the mainstream because talking about nice glass is not something that I see a lot in the cannabis circles that I'm in. And it's something that when I'm in head shops, it always catches your eye, this really sparkly, intricate piece of glass. And you look at the price tag and you're like, oh my God, this is $350. But it was hand blown, crafted, there's a story behind it, and it's gorgeous.
Exactly. And the craziest part is so the average sale on our app is around $300, but some of them can actually range like upwards of 10,000. Some can even get into like 100,000. It's really crazy it how and a lot of that isn't purely just based on like the amount of time. A lot of it is just like the hype of the artist and stuff like that. But then again, if there's like hype like that behind a certain artist, that really kind of shows like where the market's going, and that there's an actual like an actual audience of people, and people that are really actually genuinely interested in supporting these artists that previously were just like kind of relying solely on Instagram or just like word of mouth. Grateful Dead shows is really where it started. They would sell their pipes at the Shakedown Street, and so it's really crazy to see that something that started as like just really small sales at parking lots, basically, there's now a whole industry and market, shops, galleries, there's events all the time. It's really really cool to see people trying to legitimize and like bring this outside of just a really small community. So that's really what I'm most excited about, is just the community aspect, kind of showing everyone how amazing the cannabis and the glass community really is. So yeah, that's what I'm excited about.
So you said this was something that you started while you were in college. What was your degree or background in that was conducive to this?
So I was a business major and I had a minor in computer security. I've always kind of been a tech nerd, and I've always been a smoker as well. So I kind of noticed, well, I didn't notice, but when I was in college, I realized that, I chose business because I wanted to be able to choose any industry I could work in, because I have a huge variety of interests besides like, just cannabis. And so I felt that if I majored in one specific thing, it would kind of like lock me in. And so I chose business because it kind of gave me the ability to work on what I wanted. Entrepreneurship has always been a really big part of my life. When I was in high school, I had like a car washing business. And so when I got to college, I worked a bit with startups, and I just kind of realized that like, you know, you can really do anything if you just start it and just kind of try. And my computer security minor allowed me to kind of like understand the difficulty and like what it takes to build an app. Even though I'm not like the one that does all the coding or anything, it really helped me to kind of like understand the big picture and be able to like work with our developers a lot easier, and to kind of help guide the process rather than solely focusing on like the business side. I was able to really help like architect the app and kind of like make sure that it works well. Because essentially we're primarily competing with like Instagram and Facebook, trying to get users off of these really large social media platforms into kind of a smaller platform. And so having competition with those two apps that are, billions of dollars in funding and stuff like that, it's really difficult to make sure that you have something that works really well. And so one of our biggest focuses, and even today, is making sure that the app runs as smoothly as possible. Like every time like there was a crash in the beginning, we would investigate it. And now, like, at least for me, one of my biggest pride or sources of, I guess, pride or whatever you would say, is that the app is just extremely smooth. It's primarily made to just be as easy as possible. Like, because for me, when you're editing an Instagram post, if like the app crashes, you lose all your draft. I'm sure that's happened. It's terrible.
Oh yeah.
It sucks. And so we were like, I don't want anything like that to happen. And so we just really wanted to make the experience as easy as possible, as familiar as possible to what people are already used to, but with that kind of like focus on the specific community aspect. And so back to the business and computer security question, just having experience with startups and business kind of really allowed me to see what it takes to start a company. And, a lot of people think that you have to have all this knowledge and you have to know everything before you start, but we knew nothing. Like, we literally knew nothing. It's kind of funny to think that we are where we are now, because we were just two 20-year-old kids. My co-founder was a coder who was like self-taught pretty much. We built a terrible website. It sucked. We ended up deleting it and then building an app instead with a much better development team. But it just goes to show that like, you just really have to like start it. You just have to try. You just have to figure out, like, Google, what is the first thing to do like for a business? It's usually get an LLC or like, talk to customers, make sure they want what you have. And so Yeah, that was really important for us to like understand just the fundamentals of just not how to start a business, but like what is most important. And I think realizing that you don't want to just build an app and not know that people like, you want to make sure that people want what you're building. And so before we even started, we started the Instagram page and we just kind of just talked and just, posted pictures and videos of our glass and just kind of wanted to get involved in the community and just asked everybody like, hey, we have this idea for an app. Like, is this something you think would be cool? Like, let us know. And really quickly, people were like just really excited. It took a long time to grow, but we knew that like the people that were interested were very, very excited about like what we were building. And it took like probably 3 years before we actually had the app from when I started like talking about it. So it was an interesting learning experience to, realize that you shouldn't kind of share all your secrets right away when you're not ready, because we kept getting delayed. But I think like just talking about this idea we had, how we wanted to improve the community, just like really everyone was really bought in before the product even launched. So it was just really, really, really cool to see how many people supported it. And, without the business experience of knowing the first step of, starting a company is making sure your users are going to want it, then, we might have just started building an app and, people might have hated it. We might have done something wrong. And so we're just making sure that everything we did was something that other people said they wanted, rather than us just saying, we think this is what people want. So that's kind of like the long story of how the business knowledge helps.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, as a fellow entrepreneur, I think you're spot on. The only thing you can do is get started. I didn't know anything that I know now when I started my business. I was just like, I'm going to write stuff and see what happens.
Exactly. And that's the beauty. You just have to start and you just figure it out. I mean, you'll never know what you don't know unless you try. So
Yeah. And the beauty of going into business for yourself is even if it doesn't work, there's nobody there to tell you, well, you screwed up, you can't do this again. You get to get up and say, well, I'm going to fix it and try again.
exactly. And honestly, like even if you for some reason lost all your money, you still have all that experience and the connections you made. And it really is just so worth it to just just learn and try, because the next thing you do is you're going to have all that experience behind you. So
Yeah, absolutely. So when did the app officially hit the App Store?
I think March 2nd, 2021. So about
Okay.
6 months now, I think. No, more like 8 months.
Yeah, like 8 months.
Yeah, so we had a beta up for a while before that. That was like a private closed beta for like a few months, but it officially launched on the App Store in March 2021. We had the website that I mentioned launch in August 2019. That only ran for 6 months, and it was just so bad. We lost money. It looked terrible, and so we were like, you know what? We're gonna just delete this whole website and start from scratch. And so it took another year to launch the app, but we are very glad that we decided to scrap the website and start over with an app, because like I think 97% of our users on the website were using their phones. And so it just made a lot more sense to have an app and then later build it into a website.
Yeah, definitely. So you touched on being really excited to see this glass community grow. What else are you excited for in the industry right now?
So I'm actually really excited about events. For me, like one thing about cannabis in general that I really enjoy is just the social aspect of it. When I first started smoking, it was with friends. It was a very social experience. I was able to meet people that I never really like would have met before, and I found that just everybody that I met through cannabis is just so unique, so honestly welcoming, and just nice. Like everyone is so supportive. Every time I go to events, it's amazing meeting new people. And so I'm really excited to finally see like legal events happening with like, for example, I went to PuffCon a couple of weeks ago, and that was an amazing event to see. Like it was in the middle of downtown LA, like at like a government like headquarters type of building. And so it was like in the middle of the street, and it was just so cool to see that. Like, I mean, there's no alcohol allowed, no tobacco, and everyone there just had like puffcos and was just smoking. And it was just such a different vibe than like a regular music festival, because like there's everyone's kind of drunk walking around like yelling. This was just like I felt like I could walk up to anybody and just have a conversation, and it was just so much more welcoming. And so I'm really excited to see just how these events start to grow more and more with like, the ability to host them legally and not have like, some underground event where it's like, on the hush hush type of thing. And I'm just really excited to see how, again, like the community and just the industry in a general is going to be going more from this underground kind of like thing where it's like just a, kind of like a hidden part of society into being more of like a very like open part of, our culture and like society in general. I'm just really excited to be able to see cannabis being like more accepted as a social thing rather than just, I don't know, like whatever it is now, I guess, like some sort of side thing. But like, I just, yeah, I'm really, I think it's going to be really cool to have like, like vineyards for weed where you can go and just hang out with your friends, like enjoy the cannabis. And yeah, just the social aspect for me, also just legalization and stuff like that. But I'm just really excited to see people just kind of feeling like they can come out of their houses, like go outside and meet people that are also involved in cannabis and not kind of feel like you have to hide it or like, you have to be discreet or whatever when, people can just, drink whenever and it's fine. I think that I would love to be able to have cannabis have like the same kind of acceptance of a social type of thing. So that's really what I'm excited for. And I think that, that's only going to happen as, the stigma decreases and, legalization allows for more events and stuff like that, not just in, states that are legalized, but across the whole country. And, that's another thing that I think needs to change, but we'll get to that later.
Interstate commerce, that is its own conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've heard it described before as coming out of the green closet when you acknowledge that you consume cannabis, when you start to talk about it openly. So I think that the general coming out of the green closet for the country as a whole is very close to what you're talking to with that societal acceptance.
Yeah, that I mean, honestly, for me, I think coming out of the green closet really over the past year is when I started to feel really comfortable. When I was in college, I'd never wanted to post my face. I just wanted to be kind of like an anonymous figure because at the time I thought that I wanted to like, work at a corporate job and, have a career. And I worked at AWS for 8 months after school selling their cloud product. And I just, I just like, even though I knew like they wouldn't care if I smoked, there's just always kind of like that inner feeling of like, you don't want your coworkers to know, like, you don't want your friends and family to know if they like, are not accepting. And so like just recently over the past year, I told my family, my grandparents about GlassPass and how like I quit my job and everything. And surprisingly, they were a lot more supportive than I thought. And so I think like the first step to breaking that stigma is really just talking about it. And, I feel like you'd be surprised at the acceptance that people are willing to show, especially when, you're building your own thing and you're working on something, even if it's, cannabis and, some people may think, don't smoke or whatever. If you're still doing your own thing, I think there's merit to that regardless of like what it is. And so for me, it was really nice to see like my family and, really support just when I started to tell them about GlassPass and, leaving my job and everything. Cause, for a while, your parents, they want you to, get a job, have like a successful career and, quitting a full-time job to work on a glass marketplace is kind of crazy. But, I'm really excited for the future. I think that it's obviously something that people need just based on how much our users love it. And so I don't regret leaving the job. I don't regret coming out of the closet for a second. So if anyone out there is watching this and, you're worried about what your friends or family might think, I encourage you to just see what they say because, people are a lot more supportive than you think, especially when it's something you're passionate about.
Yeah. And what I found that surprised me is even if people aren't, super supportive of cannabis, they're very curious about it. They want to know what it's like working in this legal market, what you know about the plant, what insider information you can give them, even if you're like, I work with code all day. I can't really tell you much about how cannabis stocks are doing.
Exactly. And I saw an article just this morning, actually, that seniors were using cannabis more and more. And I think that obviously, top down, if your parents are using cannabis, then maybe your parents are going to think, my dad's doing it, then maybe, my kid isn't so crazy. So
Yeah, and then maybe your parents will try it. I think that I know that you're, an American like I am. You're pretty close to my age, and the war on drugs propaganda that we were fed had really been perfected over our parents and our grandparents' generation.
Mhm.
So we were kind of at the tail end of that, where they really kind of shoved it into us, and it worked. I want to say a little bit less on us than it did on our parents and grandparents before us, and I think that the internet has a lot to do with that.
Definitely, definitely. The internet is, the great equalizer.
Yes, absolutely. So you've been in this industry for a couple of years now, working on your website and your app. And as you've watched the industry progress and open up, what's something that you've noticed that you're not a fan of or that you think needs to change?
I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but I think legalization in two aspects. One, being kind of the social part. I think it's crazy, like that I mentioned, there's events where people can go and the only ticket to entry is literally owning a dab rig. But if you're in a different state and you own that same dab rig and get pulled over and you have it, like you could get a ticket or go to jail depending on where you are. So I think that's absolutely crazy that just based on where you live, you have it's just such different laws. Like it was wild to think that, because I'm not from California. I grew up in Chicago. I also lived in Texas for a few years, unfortunately. But the laws are just, it's just crazy at how different they are, throughout the country. And I think that one thing really needs to change is, first of all, the people that are still in prison for a plant and, like of nonviolent crime, I think they need to be released because, I just think it's so just hypocritical that there are people going out to huge events with, just celebrating the plant when there's people that are in prison for it at the same time. And that is obviously something that needs to change. And so, kind of alongside that, I think the legalization, especially with banking, hurts the growth of businesses and makes it a lot harder for entrepreneurs to kind of get involved in the space. One of the things that like we really didn't realize we were getting into was the whole banking thing. We started off using PayPal and quickly realized that PayPal is not a fan of glass. And so the hardest thing for us was trying to find a bank that would support our product. And I think that if we hadn't spent so much time trying to search for a bank, we could have spent all that time trying to grow the community, grow other things. And I think just the large amount of regulation really is kind of like a damper for businesses and growth, and it just makes it that much harder to do something that is going to benefit other people. Like if besides the tax dollars and everything, it's safer to have legal cannabis because it's tested, it's regulated, you don't have to worry about getting that like fentanyl laced things, like it's like sometimes on the East Coast. I've been reading about it. It's terrible. It's not like it's just so crazy the contrast from certain states to other states, and also nationwide, the interstate commerce and stuff like that. I think it's really unfortunate that I can't try weed that's grown in Oregon unless I drive there. I think that needs to change because, like you can import wine from other countries. Wine is like, it's just, there's a lot of growth that needs to happen. And I think a lot of that comes with the people that are making these laws, not fully understanding, the benefits of the plant, not understanding the culture, just not understanding what it really is. And so I think something that needs to change is, having more people that like actually understand the benefits that are making these rules, rather than people that are just, like you said, from the drug war, and the people that were the ones, probably helping to, create that propaganda. And so I think that needs to change because it's just crazy, the inequality and the contrast between different states and laws. And
Yes,
it's a whole thing.
it is. You touched on some really great points there. I mean, I think the amount of people who are in prison right now, it's the absolute travesty of our industry. It's the really dark underbelly that we could easily get rid of, if we talked about things like federal legalization and interstate commerce, and getting the people who have been in office since the 80s when they were pushing this propaganda out of office now that we want it legal.
Exactly.
Absolutely. So I know that you're still in the startup phase with your organization, still very much focused on growth, but talk to me about how diversity and inclusion and social equity factors into what you do in the cannabis space.
So diversity inclusion is kind of just honestly built into the way we operate. Everyone that joins the team has joined from the community, basically. I think everyone that has joined has actually reached out to me personally and asked about potential roles or just helping out. And I always, like, the first thing I say is, if I always want to hear everything everyone has to say. Whenever I bring someone on the team, I try as hard as I can to make sure that they have like none of the same experiences or like perspective as other people. I try as hard as I can to make sure that like there's different perspectives, because at the end of the day, if everyone is just, has the same thing and is saying the same thing, you're never going to grow. You're just going to be doing the same thing over and over. The only way that you can grow is by having different perspectives from different backgrounds. And I mean, I think that that is just a given, honestly. And so within GlassPass, everybody pretty much has equal say in anything. I always encourage everybody to speak up if they think something's wrong, if they think something isn't right. And there's been plenty of times where my team has like called me out on something that I thought was right at the time, but they think is different. And then I realized, you know what, you're right. Like, we're not going to do this. We're going to change that. And just making sure that like everybody has a chance. We don't like discriminate based on anything except age, of course. You have to be 21. But one of our interns is from Azerbaijan, and he's actually like one of our like best designers. We have a couple girls on the team, and one of them is a new intern as well. And she completely destroyed our like website. She's like, you need to change all of this, and this. And like, no one has been so like straightforward and upfront about that. And same thing with the other girl on our team who's on the social media team. Like, she always has really great insight that, some of the guys just don't really like speak up about. And I feel like, first of all, there needs to be more women in cannabis in general. But also I've noticed that like some of my top, like our top users that like give the most feedback and are the most helpful are all like women that are really involved and like really truly care about like making it better. And I've found that like there just needs to be more women in cannabis. I read an article about like the Boys Week in Vegas, and that was a really insightful article. And I just, it just sucks that it's kind of like a boys club. I guess like I don't know. It's something that needs to change. Again, like with legalization, cannabis is a plant that is welcoming for anyone. Like, there's no one type of person that uses cannabis. And so why should there be like one type of person that is selling it and like, like working with it? So I think that, yeah, like it doesn't make sense that, there are so many that, it doesn't make sense that the people that are consuming it aren't like equally involved in like, the creation and the process of it. So I think there needs to be more equality in general. And at least at GlassPass, we try our best to bring on everybody as we can. Like I said, perspective is everything. And so having the same perspective is bad. But
Yeah.
for social equity, it's been a little difficult since we're still bootstrapped and everything, but we're going to be planning a lot of events soon. And at all of our events, we want to do fundraising for, there's a couple artist funds that help like injured artists. There's also Last Prisoner Project that we want to start donating to. So currently we haven't been able to do much in terms of social equity, just because we've been so focused on the app, and marketplaces don't have huge revenue streams in the beginning. And so once we start to be able to do more like in-person events, I think that will be like really impactful to be able to do fundraisers and stuff like that. Because I mean, every trade show you go to, there's always funds to help for like social equity. And I think that that's like one of the most impactful ways to get people involved and to donate, is to have them in person and to like really show them the mission. And so we think that having events and stuff like that will make it a lot easier to kind of make social equity more of a focus for GlassPass.
Yeah, absolutely. I love what you said about different perspectives on the team, because I think it's very easy to fall into kind of a homogenous team where everybody looks the same, has the same experiences. And you're completely right that that's not where growth comes from. It comes from different perspectives and new ideas and people thinking about things in a way that you never would have approached like that.
Exactly. Exactly. I find it fascinating, you know, just like walking on the street, every single person has as many experiences as you do, if not more. And it's just really interesting to see how those experiences like influence their thought process. Cause, you know, one person may not care about anything like this, like one person may not care at all about one subject, but to someone else, that thing may mean the world to them. And so it's really important to make sure that you know you value everyone else's perspectives because you know users and customers, they're all different. And so if you're going to have a company that is all the same person, you're only focusing on that one small group that is exactly like you. And you know chances are the people that you're you know trying to get to use your product are nothing like you because you know everyone is so different. And so I think having as diverse a company as possible will make just the experience as good as possible for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a strength there in your differing perspectives. It because you're able to take an idea that might be really good and make it fantastic because those people with different perspectives can poke out the holes that you didn't notice, and then your idea becomes stronger.
Exactly. Exactly.
So it's not easy working in the cannabis space, bringing an app to market, particularly a marketplace app like this, where so much depends on the interaction of your users. So, what is the biggest challenge that you've overcome with GlassPass?
The biggest challenge, there's been a lot. I think besides the banks, that's a little too obvious of a challenge is you know getting banks. I think one of the hardest things one of the hardest things was when we took down the website. It was a really dark time trying to like because we felt like we had just deleted the product we were working on for a year and a half, and we felt like you know we're at ground zero again. All we have is our Instagram page, which essentially the Instagram page functioned as a mini marketplace for a while, or it actually still does. We have users tag us in pieces for sale on their stories, and then we repost their stories onto our story. So every day we have like 1 to 200 pieces for sale on our story. And yeah, it's really like a really difficult to manage, honestly. But I think so the challenge was that after we deleted the website, we had nothing. We had no development team. It was just me and my co-founder Sam, and we had really no idea what to do. The only thing we still had was our Instagram page with all the people using the marketplace. And the one thing that we realized was even though we had no website and no app, the community, like the people that were supporting us, it's like they didn't even skip a beat. Like they didn't really mind if the website was down. I mean, probably because it was bad, but like the idea of having a centralized platform, a safe marketplace, that was still extremely important to everybody. Everyone that we talked to was still super excited about like the next step, the next thing that was coming. And so I think the hardest challenge for us was getting that community to be what it is today. I mean, I've spent countless hours, like I spent pretty much every day in college on my phone all the time, just talking, chatting, just trying to build a community. Because, you know, for marketplaces, the chicken and the egg problem is the hardest thing to overcome, where if you don't have sellers, you're not going to have buyers. And so just kind of building that community over the last like 3 years, I think has been the most difficult thing in maintaining it because all the reposts that we do are free. And the reason for that was we figured that, you know, if people are tagging us in their stories, it's just going to be word of mouth. It'll grow really fast, or not really fast, but it'll grow a really strong foundation. And so it took us, we have like 30,000 followers right now, but it took us like, I think 4 years to get to that. But out of those 30,000 followers, we have like over, I think 16,000 that are actually on the app already. And so the people that are following us are extremely interested and very passionate about what we've built. And I think getting people to be interested in what you're building was the hardest thing because it just took so much time of just explaining over and over like what our mission is, and just honestly just conversations with everybody. Whenever like I have like I will never be able to forget certain people's usernames that you know I've just spent so much time talking to, and you know, but I'll never know who they are. But you know, they're some of our biggest supporters. And I think besides like trying to come back from deleting the website, I mean, we wouldn't have come back from deleting the website if it wasn't for the community like saying that they still wanted us to keep going. And I think the biggest challenge was trying to just build that and having people support us. I mean, it's still crazy to me that like there's so many people that are offering like all the time to help us out and like work for free and just do all this stuff, and because they genuinely just want to see it grow. We've had users just send us like hundreds of dollars worth of glass just to do a giveaway, just because they want to see the page grow. They want to see it just continue to help people. And I think like the amount of time and just effort that it takes to show people that you're doing everything you can as genuinely as possible. Like, we've lost a lot of money on stuff that we shouldn't have, but to me, it's worth to make one person happy than to have them, blow up and then like get mad about something. I think the hardest thing is trying to make everybody happy, like everybody happy. I genuinely try to make every single person happy, because in my opinion, if someone's mad or sad, we just aren't catering to their needs. And I'm like, why? Like, what do you not like? Like, are you mad? Like, how can we make it better? If someone's upset, it's not like they're upset at us. They're upset at, the product essentially not delivering what it can be. And that's not a reason to kind of like, shut down and get mad. That's a reason for you to shut up and listen and see what they say and be like, all right, how can we make this better? And so I think also one of the hardest parts is just understanding that everyone's perspective and everyone's opinion is valid, no matter like if I'm like, oh, that's stupid, like how does he not understand that? I have to stop and think, okay, we haven't done a good enough job of explaining this. And so it's really just stopping, understanding, and then improving, and just trying not to like upset people. Because at the end of the day, like I don't see why anyone would, hate what we're doing or like not like what we're doing, because if we're trying to, just make everything better for everybody, then I'm more than willing to understand why people aren't happy or whatever it is. And so that was kind of a tangent, but I think the hardest thing is just listening to everybody and, trying to make everyone happy and just make sure that we're doing what they want us to do.
Yeah, there is no shortcut for building that kind of community engagement. Like, you really just need time on your side so people can see what you do, understand your intentions, and see the pattern of accountability and authenticity in what you're doing.
Exactly. And I think if I wasn't in college when we started, it would have been impossible for me to spend that much time, with like a full-time job talking to everybody. And, I'm really glad that, we started when we did, and it really helped build the foundation before we even had the website, just talking and chatting and, posting screenshots and like, hey, like we did this today. Like, what do you guys think? Like, I would have so many, just like, I would post a screenshot of one screen and a screenshot of another and say, which one do you like better? Like, which one should we do? And just constantly having feedback is, the best way to build something, in my opinion, because it's not like if you build it, they're going to come. You have to make sure that they want what you're going to build. So
yeah, and I mean, that is like extremely rich first person data that you're getting right there. People pay thousands and thousands of dollars to be able to survey their audience like that. So to be able to get that kind of real-time feedback as you are building is incredibly valuable.
yeah, it's been a really amazing experience to just be able to work so closely with our users. I mean, my phone is always blowing up, but it's because my personal phone number is actually still the business phone number, and I'm
Oh my
changing
God.
that. Like, yeah, next week I'm actually getting a new phone because it's kind of getting overwhelming. But like anyone that wants to text me, I say, shoot me a text, ask me a question anytime. Like I'm here to help. So just having. Yeah, I mean, like I still do all the customer service. Like any problem, I make sure that we help them like within the same day. Trying to help customers is the first thing. Like if someone has a problem, I drop everything else and I go and I figure that out. And I think that's also been one of the most difficult things, but by far one of the most impactful things, because it shows them that you genuinely care about like their experience and their, especially when, hundreds to thousands of dollars are on the line. People are nervous, and I want to like make sure that they feel comfortable, because the whole point of GlassPass is safe sales. Like, you don't have to worry about charging back the bank. You don't have to worry about scams. Like, we will refund you if something goes wrong. And I think that's like a lot of people don't understand that, they'll freak out, they'll go to the bank and do a chargeback. And I'm like, hey man, like, we'll get you refunded. You don't have to wait on the bank. Like, we'll just, it's a new process. It's a new concept. It's like, we are here to help you. And so we don't want you to have to deal with your bank or whatever, whoever it is you're dealing with when you're trying to, protect yourself. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, in a world of chat bots and offshore customer service lines, that's not the norm. And if you spent $5,000 on a glass piece, you're like, shit, I got to call my bank. Like, I can't have this go through. You're not expecting to be able to reach anybody because most other companies you can.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that, yeah, it's been, it's obviously, it takes most of my time. But I'm actually also training the team right now to start taking over some customer service, since I honestly do a lot of the daily activities for GlassPass. But as I'm, like I said, you learn from your mistakes, and I'm slowly learning I need to have other people help me with these daily tasks rather than just me. So, you learn as you go. It's, you can't do everything.
Nope. Delegation is key for a leader, but that doesn't mean it's easy.
Yeah. It's that's also been one of the hardest things.
Yeah. So as you've gone through this journey, you built the website, you built this app, you built this community. What is something that you are really proud of, but you don't always get to talk about?
I think so. There's a couple things I've already mentioned. I think one thing is the community. I've actually talked a lot about that, so I won't really talk too much about that anymore, because I mean, I'm so proud of our community and how much they love the product. But I'm also, for me personally, like every time I open the app, I'm like, holy shit, like, how is this my app? Like it's like, it functions so well. It works so good. Like, when it first came out, I personally, like, I didn't really like using it more than Instagram, because it was, it was honestly, it wasn't fully set up. It wasn't really at its full, capacity, and we still have a long way to go. But now I personally, like, I never want to use Instagram or any other social media to sell stuff, because the app for me is just so much easier. And just the fact that it's like so smooth, like, the messages update right away. And, that took a long time to get to work, to have the messages instant update. And so I'm really proud of the team, of our team, for building such a just such a well structured app. Fundamentally, just, like I mentioned earlier, it's so smooth, but also design wise, I think that the team that we're working with is actually an Apple award winning development team. They had a previous app they built, one app of the day for like their design. And so I'm really, really proud of how beautiful the app looks, honestly, and just like the design that we've put into it. I mean, if it wasn't a bong app, I think that Apple genuinely would give us a shot at app of the day. But yeah, I mean, like, I just genuinely am, every time I open the app, I'm just like, wow, like, this is really cool, really cool. And another thing that I think is amazing is how often our users open it. The average like sessions per day out of our users is like 5.5 or something. And so it's crazy. The I looked up some averages, and I think like the highest app that has like opens per day is like social networking, and it's like an average of like 3 or something. And so we're like way above that. And to me, that shows that people love using the app. Even though it's still like a very small community, because we're actually spending like pretty much $0 on marketing right now. All of our users are from word of mouth or from our Instagram page. And so that's another thing I'm proud of. But yeah, I mean, just like how much people love it has been, because I mean, the websites, like the original website, I can't even describe. It looked like it came from the 90s. It was so bad. It sucked. And so I'm just so proud of like how far we've come from a terrible website to now like a fully functioning app. And, people will be like, hey, like, they'll call me and they're like, hey, is this GlassPass support? But like, little do they know, it's just me. Like, I'm just like, I'm the guy. And so people will think we're like a corporation, but like no, like we're not. Like, there's really only a few of us that are there's me, my co-founder Sam, who's the COO of operations. We have a CTO, Ben, who does all manages like the development, and then we have a marketing guy, Brent. And so our like main team is actually like really small. even though we have like developers that help and people that help run reposts and moderate the stuff, like our team that actually does kind of like the main business stuff is still very small. And so I'm really proud of the fact that we've been able to do so much with, a bunch of people that are all like under 25. So yeah, we're a very young team. And I think that's also something that I'm very proud of as well.
It definitely brings a different kind of energy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really fun because, everyone just wants to build this and just wants to do this. And, everyone wants to spend as much time as they can. And, that'd be very different if everyone had like a family and like, like a house to support and stuff like that. And so we're also in a very unique position to be able to spend so much time because we're still young on this. And so that's another thing that's been really, really impactful, is just being able to spend so much time.
So somebody downloads your app, they're interested in buying a piece of glass for the first time. What do you want them to walk away from GlassPass feeling?
Safe. Safe. I want them to know that whoever they're buying from, like, they don't have to worry about if they're legitimate or not. Worst case scenario, if that person scams them, like, they're just going to get their refund within the same day. If a piece arrives broken, like, we'll get them refunded. They'll send it back. And so I just really want people to know that whatever they're buying, they are like fully guaranteed to be safe with that. Because like, it's when you go to a head shop online, you buy something, you're going to get it. But if you go on social media, you aren't fully sure that whatever it is going to show up. Maybe the person is a good seller, but they didn't, like, it broke in transit because of USPS. And then, the seller is like, oh, I packed it well, I'm not going to give you any money back. Like, we will still be able to step in and say, like, hey, the package arrived broken, partial refund, full refund. Like, how do we want to work this out? And so I want everyone that uses it to know that, like, we are there all the time to make sure that, like, you are fully safe and you have like the best experience as possible. We're still working on making it easy as possible to, like, just type in a search of glass and then you go right to that piece. We have a bunch of different filters and tags for that. But we're still kind of building out like the search algorithm. So the main thing I think that GlassPass is trying to do, besides making it easier, is safety, like purely just like safety, and community knowledge, but primarily safe transactions. I think that's the most important thing for us.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. This has been phenomenal. I have one more question for you.
Of course.
What is your favorite fun fact about cannabis?
My favorite fun fact about cannabis. That's a good one. Fun fact about cannabis. So I have a fun fact about glass. Not so much about cannabis, but about glass. It's kind of gross, but did you know that apparently if you leave like dirty water in your bong for more than 24 hours, it'll start developing bacteria and like microfilm and like kind of like gross stuff. And so I guess my fun fact would be you should change your water, clean your bong as much as possible, because it really, like, it can have an effect on like your lungs and your health if you're, leaving it dirty, because you'd be surprised at how quickly bacteria can form in dirty bong water.
Fun fact about cannabis, change your bong water. It's probably gross.
Exactly.
That's a good reminder.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you sharing it with me.
Thank you so much, Jessica. This was amazing.
Yeah.